All right, we are live. You get that little pit in the stomach. Did you get that little pit in the stomach feeling, Bryan, of like, oh, we're live and we're doing this, or do you have no nerves?
You know what? It's funny. I don't get that nervous for things, right? Like I played sports my whole life, and so I think that part of it is that sort of nature of that fight or flight.
Yeah.
But one thing I'll tell you is that the more that you do this, and for anybody listening, like or watching this, is if we're all telling you, hey, get virtual and get on, virtual phone calls with your clients and stuff like that, and you're super nervous about doing it or getting on video, the amplitude of the pit and then where you come back down to your sort of homeostasis level where you just feel like we're having a conversation, that changes, right? The amplitude isn't as severe and it's definitely not as long.
AKA it gets easier.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I went all scientific and technical there.
Yes. So welcome to the Remodeler Show, folks. We just went down a little rabbit hole before we even got started. Let's just get a little intro music.
Welcome to the Remodeler Show, hosted by Kyle Hunt.
Yes. Now, Bryan, what I love about that is that you just showed off what I like to say about you, which is you're wicked smart. My boy's wicked smart. Do you know what movie that's from?
I feel like I do. It's escaping me right now.
It's from Good Will Hunting. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. And where it comes
Robin Williams. Come on.
Yes, I apologize.
Mr. Robin Williams, the funniest man ever.
And it's a great scene. So if you if you type in Wicked Smart, it's a very good scene. Yeah. But you were talking about amplification and this and that. And I'm like, wait, are you talking about just it gets easier? Yes, it does. But you made a good point. So we are on the Remodeler Show today. It's Tuesday, August 4th. And my friend and colleague, Bryan Kaplan with Construction Consulting, is with me. And what we're going to talk about today is not something that I spend a lot of time talking about. My mind and teaching is a lot around the sales process and the marketing plan, and yes, financials, and we touch on a lot of different things. But I don't talk a lot about estimating because it's not my skill set. But there are people that are experts when it comes to estimating, and boy, as remodelers, is it an extremely important facet of your business. It is where profits can be won or lost. It is where organization can happen. It is where projects can be designed and set up in a way that leads to a project that stays on schedule, on budget, a better client experience. You can save time, you can waste time. There's a lot that goes into this part of the business. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We would love your comments, your live comments as we get into things. And I'm just going to ask Bryan some questions related to estimating. He's going to do a little bit of teaching and sharing. We'll bounce it back and forth, and we'll go from there. Does that sound like a plan, Bryan Kaplan?
It sounds like a plan. I love it.
So you would agree that we should spend hours and hours and hours on estimating and never, ever charge the client for that, correct?
Absolutely.
For those of you who don't understand the term sarcasm, that was me being sarcastic and Bryan meeting it with equal sarcasm. Bryan, talk to us about getting paid to estimate.
The bottom line is this: you absolutely need to get paid for your estimates. I talk about this. I mean, I feel like even when I start talking about it, I'm like annoying myself with the fact that I'm such a broken record about it. But ultimately, what it comes down to is that you bring a lot of skill, expertise, and just experience to that whole process, and the value add to a prospective client who's looking to remodel or build a custom house. It's such an invaluable skill. Most clients don't know anything about anything really when it comes to the estimate. All they know is what somebody else is telling them. And so, not getting paid for it, it just completely devalues all of that time. I always like to say that you owe me for the years, not the hours that it takes to do a job. And, estimating is no different, right? I mean, it's really the same thing as the carpenters, the electricians, and the plumbers that are on your job sites. They all get paid, and so should you.
So how do we go about that? How do we go about that? Talk about that.
Yeah. And, Kyle, obviously you have a sales course as well as I do. And that's a big focus of both of our.
Mine's better, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
Sure.
But that's a big focus of both of our consultancies. Yeah. And so, and ultimately what it comes down to is a lot of us fell into the business, didn't really have any business training. And, sometimes we just need to be told, hey, like this is the way that we need to actually go about this, the way we need to think about our sales process and all of that. And as we know, estimating is implanted firmly in that sales process, right? In order to sell a project, there's typically a costing exercise that has to happen there. The question is that where in that journey do you start collecting money or getting that cost recovery? So the how that we do this is about, it really comes back to that sales process. It really comes back to just like, people that come to work with either you or me, they get kind of told by us, hey, this is what you should think about when you first get a lead. This is what you should think about when you're on the first phone call with somebody. This is what you think about between that first phone call and that in-person or that next virtual meeting or whatever it is. Same sort of thing translates to you explaining and educating the clients that are out there that, these are the, as we always like to say, and I always like to do this on any webinar or video, we're doing the WIFI, right? What's in it for you? So we have to educate and explain to our clients what's in it for them, why they should actually pay for an estimate. Why shouldn't it be a free thing? Why does it put them at a disadvantage when they are getting free estimates? How does it position them to make a decision solely on price, not based on any form of maybe even reality is really what it comes down to. So the how is, it's a long process, that's for sure. But it really starts with, I think, internalizing, and I think you and I would both agree on this, is that you have to be able to understand and agree and really internalize whatever it is that we're talking about to be able to sell it. And if you can't believe that your value is worth being paid for a free or being paid for an estimate in that process, then you're going to have a very tough time selling that to a client. So that's really kind of the first step.
Yeah, that confidence and realizing that what we're doing here has a lot of value to it. The other thing that I think is helpful is just the words we use of, pretty much all of my clients offer free estimates.
Yep.
They do, based on what you're describing to me, based on photos I've seen, based on me visiting your site, and based on, what you're looking to do. And my years of experience doing this project's going to range anywhere from between these range. Now, if you want a detailed proposal and more guaranteed specifications, we can provide that service. And we charge This is how we work, is another thing you were just getting at there of being confident in your process.
That's right.
And the other thing you mentioned when we were just brainstorming a few of the topics is for them to, for the remodeler, because step one is kind of building your confidence that, wait, this is valuable. Wait, there's a lot of work that I put into this. Share your thoughts related to, if I am not charging for an estimate, I'm not able to do fill in the blank. But when I am charging for my detailed proposals, I'm able to do fill in the blank. You follow where I'm going with that?
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is something really interesting. So in the sales class that I just finished, in week 3, I remember that it was just clear as day, and it was amazing to me. So when we go into the group classes, we do little breakout sessions for about 20 minutes of each class. And people just love that because they get to talk to each other and really understand what each other's pain points are. And the very interesting thing is that depending on, it doesn't matter where they are in the country or what country they're in, they all have the same problems. But the thing that stuck out to me was it was a sprint. It was like from the moment they met somebody, it was a complete sprint to get to that number. It was like, I needed to get to that number as quickly as possible, right? So the reality is, and this is what I tell every single person, whether it's a sales process, estimating process, or knowing your numbers, it's about slowing it down. It's about taking the time to make sure that you put in place all these repeatable processes, but also that you can then actually go through those processes and not race. And it's, one of my clients said it so perfectly on, we were in this big Zoom group call, and he said that it's so easy to cave when a client puts something to you and says, hey, everybody in my area is giving free estimates. It's so easy to cave, right? It's so easy to say, can you do this pre-construction agreement instead of $1,500? Can you do it for $500? Can you do it for $1,000? I don't know, whatever the number is. It's so easy to cave. And it takes a lot of, we would say chutzpah, it takes a lot of that to say no.
We Jewish people?
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So that's a Yiddish word to say that, it takes a lot of balls essentially to say, hey, we're going to say no, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, right? This isn't what we're going to do. This is our process. This is how we work. Let me walk you through it. Let me help you explain. Yeah. So some of the things that you don't get to do is, one of the big things that I, consistently hammer home and talk about a lot is we all have that word, and you and I are aligned on this, is that everyone has this word subcontractors. Even QuickBooks uses it. So it makes it really hard to abandon it, but we look at it as trade partners. Well, when we talk about trade partners, just the word partner itself, if we're treating somebody as a partner, we're not putting them at a disadvantage. And so if you don't take the proper time, so you don't slow down your whole process to be able to actually properly prepare them, put them in a position to succeed, to give you numbers back that actually reflect the full scope of work, and build that relationship. Let's be honest with you. It's not just the relationship with your homeowners, right? This entire business is built on relationship. And so that's the reality of it. And so, so if you don't take the time, if you don't slow it down, you can't properly prepare your request for proposals, right? That go out to your trade partners. Now,
say that 5 times fast.
Request for proposal. I can't do it. And some people are like, whoa, amplitude and request for proposals. And my gosh, we're not like a national corporation or anything like that. And the reality is that's a fancy term for saying, hey, I'm going to reach out to my electrician and say, we've got a new project. This is roughly what the scope of work looks like. We might have some reflected ceiling plans, some RCPs that I'm going to send your way. And these are some of the things that we know right now. If we take the time to prepare this properly and help them succeed, give us costs that, back that are reflective of that scope of work, this is one of the really big keys in estimating of how we succeed.
Sometimes it pops up. And Chris, if you go to StreamYard.com/Facebook, you can give approval to show your name, but I just clicked on Facebook to see it. Chris said confidence creates value, and there's no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
As you were talking, I wrote down 2 things. I said when you don't charge, you can't get into the details.
Yeah.
You just can't. There's not enough time. When you are chasing every project that comes in and giving these estimates and devoting so many hours and time to it, and you just can't do it. When you do charge for detailed design and or detail project development, it allows you, like you said, to slow down. It allows you to plan. It allows you to get into the details, get great numbers, like you said, from your trade partners. And it's just an easier, better, stronger way to go about it. I don't think there's anybody listening to that disagrees with what you just said and how I just summarized it. The problem is that we don't know how to do it. We don't have the confidence to do it. But you teach it, I teach it. There's all kinds of people that are talking about it. And what Chris hit on there is confidence is 70% of it. Getting clear with this is how we work, and practicing how to say that and explaining why it makes sense for everybody involved, and starting to do it. Again, you can offer a free estimate, but you can't offer a free detailed design and proposal.
No, absolutely not. And, and then it's funny, we always get hung up on these words. What does an estimate mean versus a quote versus a ballpark number? Right. And there's differing opinions. And, as you know, I'm pretty active on social media. And so I'll go and actually put a post on, and I might use the word quote or estimate or ballpark or whatever it is. And you get some interesting comments back and forth. But I think ultimately what we're really talking about is how do you get to that number, right? How do you actually help somebody understand what the cost is going to be? The big reality here when we talk about estimating is this, and this is something that people want to write down. And if you're rewatching this, write this down. You're not solving.
What if they're driving right now?
If they're say it 25 times straight,
but don't write it down.
But don't write it down.
Okay,
no,
exactly.
I got in trouble last time we did a podcast, Kyle and I, and I said something about pull over. I think I said pull over to the side of the road. No, I think I said. I can't remember what I said, but we were talking about driving and answering the call, I think. Right?
Yes.
I think it was that. And you said maybe pull over.
Yes,
correct. I thought, I wasn't thinking safety first, so I wasn't putting myself into someone's mind. So if you're driving, so
either write it down or yes, go back and listen to it. But what were you gonna say before I made my funny?
All good. The big thing is that we always want to look at what is the actual problem that we're trying to solve, right? That's really at the bottom of the end of the day. That's what you should always be looking at. The problem you're trying to solve is actually not a numbers problem. The problem you're really trying to solve is a scope of work problem. And so to our points, if you do not slow down this process to get and gather all the details equals scope of work. If you can't do that properly, you're never going to arrive at the correct price. And so one of the things that we always talk about, if this is a little golden nugget for people in a line that you can use with people, is we're always looking, say Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, we're looking to get closer to the end price of your project before the project begins.
Say that again.
We're trying to get closer to the end price of your project before the project begins.
Bailey, write that down and put that in the comment.
As opposed to the reality where we're rushing, we get to a number, and then what happens? We get that taboo 2-letter or 2-word term that one starts with a C, the other one starts with an O, and we get into that change order sort of scenario where it's, oh, we didn't realize this. Oh, we didn't realize this, which leads to some words you never want to hear a client say. If we had only known, we wouldn't have insert blank.
Yeah.
So, and those are the words you never want to get to, but it's our own fault when we get ourselves there. When we get a client there, it's our own fault.
Go back to saying it again. The problem that we're trying to solve is, say that again.
It's not a numbers problem. It's a scope of work problem.
That's good. Right? Because once you're clear and once you're detailed and once you have that scope of work clear, getting the numbers together is a matter of, yes, you still got to work at it, but without that being clear, the numbers aren't going to be correct or detailed or thorough. Good. Those are some good one-liners, my friend.
You know, one of the things that I've just recognized, and I talk about this all the time about being on an island of one, a lot of business owners have to make a lot of decisions. They don't necessarily have the confidence to sort of know what to say is exactly that. I get this comment from people a lot of time. The words, the phrases, how do I walk somebody through this entire process from the start to the beginning or start to the end is a real challenging thing. And so it's funny. I have a lot of clients that I work with, either they're, one-on-one clients or they've been in my classes and they've taken multiple classes with me, and they'll reach out to me and say, hey, my client said this, what do I say now? And in a way, I feel like a parent that's enabling them just to, get in touch with me every time. But the hope is that they get enough confidence from all of these things, and, which is a great, amazing bridge that just popped into my mind that we can segue towards, which is the concept of job costing and estimating. And the segue is that when I give people all these little one-liners, just like I've given a couple right now, write these things down, put them in a Trello board, put them in a notes application, heck, put them in your notebook. Doesn't really matter where you put it, but start collecting all this data, because there's so much power in the data, which brings us to job costing, which
hold that thought on job costing. We'll get that in a second. And I wanted to just read Michael's here. Getting clear on who, what, why, and really sitting with it so you're solid in it. So important. Any comments on that? Yeah.
There's a lot there, a lot of different angles that we can take. The way I kind of read it is it's obviously, we know sales and estimating are so intimately related. And so I think ultimately not every client or prospect is going to be, not every prospect is going to be our client. So how do we get clear on the who? Is we got to be very clear with who is our target market, right? Who are the people that are actually going to value our process? The what is really, I think, the reality of what their problems are as opposed to what we're selling. The why is their internal drivers, right? And that's something in a sales process we have to get to, because everyone's going to give you their external problems right up front. We want to get into those internal drivers.
Details.
And then the why is also what people will buy. They're going to buy you before they buy your company, but they're going to buy your why before they buy you. And so, getting really clear on that is super important as well. And sitting in it, it's funny. It reminds me of what we talk about. Kyle and I are part of I always get flack for my business name is Construction Consulting, and then we have our
Consultants Mastermind.
Construction Consultants Mastermind.
Almost as lame as your business name.
Almost as lame, exactly. But it reminds me of our friend and colleague David Lupberger, where he talks about sitting in your mess and kind of being okay with that, right? And it's kind of like it kind of feels like that a little bit of that comment is being okay with it's really hard to turn away potential work. You get a little shot of endorphins, a little bit of adrenaline when you get that lead, and it's really hard to stick to your process and say, this is how we work, right? And we don't go outside of that.
Yeah. Excellent. Michael's loving everything we're saying, by the way. Totally great. Getting to the end price before we start. Our sales pitch, we estimate to the penny, and our greatest estimating error is less than 0.5%, which we'll absorb.
Amazing.
He also threw an amen. There was something in there that was said that he vehemently agreed with. And then Bailey, it's not a numbers problem. It's a scope of work problem. We're looking to get to the end point of your project before your project begins. Some good takeaways there.
Let me just substitute the word point for price. There's a key distinction there, because we want to get to that end price.
So you're saying that Bailey wrote that wrong?
Nope. We're moving fast. Kyle, you and I move fast, right? We talk fast, we animate, and then there's 14 millisecond delay on all of these virtual technologies. So let's cut Bailey some slack. I think she's doing well. So
fine. So she's doing okay. She's doing adequate. So transition a little bit.
Don't listen to him, Bailey.
Yeah. Transition a little bit to this tie-in between estimating and job costing. If I may say something about job costing, maybe even a rant, or maybe a little bit of, hang on one second.
Shock jock, dropping truth.
Shock jock. That's the shock jock part of the Remodeler Show. I am frustrated.
Yeah.
When I'm asking remodelers and I'm asking my clients, so you just told me about that job you just finished up. How'd the job costing look? You know, we were clear with what we were expecting to make in gross profit. You know, you guys produced the job, the client's happy. How did we actually bring it in? What did you bring it in at the gross profit that you anticipated? Was there some slippage? Was there some extra? And so often, well, we haven't really looked at that. Well, I still need to work on that. And it's a hard thing. It's a hard system to get locked in. It's a hard thing to be dedicated to say, okay, we're going to do a really strong job closeout meeting. We're going to look at this. But boy, when you have your job costing locked in, it helps with your estimating so much. It helps with managing your team. It helps with making improvement. It's hard not to improve when you've got a strong handle on your job costing. So I wanted to spit that a little bit. But talk to us about your thoughts on estimating job costing.
It's absolutely critical. You know, I said a moment ago, the problem you're trying to solve is a scope of work problem, not a numbers problem. The reality is when we are creating an estimate is a compilation of numbers. That's really what it is. There's really only one way to do this properly. Now, if you've been in business for a long time, you can obviously go into a project, have a pretty good sense right away, because if you've paid attention to any of your financials, and even if you haven't done incredible job costing, and job costing by definition is about how much money went into all these individual line items of a project, whether they were money I paid out to a subcontractor or a trade partner for materials or for internal labor, but across things like tiling, demo, framing, site preparation, all those different things. You can blow your brains out and, have 1,000 different cost code, items, which to me is just foolish, because you're rarely going to get actual, data insight. It's going to take 10 years to make that work properly. But the point is that getting that job costing is so critical to being able to understand exactly what the true cost of building this project will be. And as remodelers and renovators, your job is even harder, because it's not new home construction where, as I always used to say, when you're building new homes, all the problems you create are your own. So, really what it comes down to is, and I see Michael there, mentioned the postmortem is huge. It's one of the questions I ask everybody that I get on the phone with. I say, are you doing postmortems? And they don't look at me because we're on a phone, but they say, nope. It goes silent for a little bit, and they say no. And so the reality is, to your point, Kyle, is that people aren't really, kind of looking at what that cost was for these projects. And so the job costing, the beauty in job costing, and for anybody that's familiar with like a channel like Slack or even like your own social media profiles, right? There's equity that gets built over time, right? Because there's more and more and more cloud or data or whatever it is. And it's the same thing with job costing. Over time, if you actually collect this data every single day, you start to just recognize this lever here. You're able to go and look at the last 10 projects, okay, here's where we slip between estimated and actual, but let me just look big picture. What does it roughly cost us for the last 5 projects that were like this one? What did it cost us in framing? So when I think it's going to be 3 weeks for 2 people and, et cetera, which is how most people will estimate labor, I can actually look at data, and the data will tell me a story. It will give me information that I can actually use.
So if I'm a remodeler who's struggling to get that in place, what encouragement or kick to the butt do you have?
I think the first step really is outsourcing your bookkeeping. And I think that's where a lot of people get hung up, because, you know it very well. If I go into, if I went into, let's just say, I don't know, X% of remodelers' homes, and I go to their dining room table, forget about COVID for a second, right? Where we're all working from home. When I go to their dining room table, likelihood I'm going to see a pile of receipts. I'm going to see a pile of file folders and all that sort of thing. And the challenge is that it just backs up, right? And we don't get that real-time view into it. And I hear a lot of people have that objection to say, hey, like I'm so busy managing the in stuff of my business that I can't work on my business, which is getting that job cost. So first step would be hire a bookkeeper, and as I always say, done is better than perfect. It doesn't have to be the perfect job costing system to start. Just get started with it. If you're not using something like QuickBooks or Xero or FreshBooks or whatever accounting platform you're going to use, really none of them are better than the other, in my opinion. Just start using one of them, right? Just get somebody that can help you with it. If you're totally adverse to computers and accounting, just get a bookkeeper that's got familiarity with it. Again, done is better than perfect.
Love it. Michael says, how frequently should contractors be reviewing estimated versus actual reports during a project? Whose responsibility is it to review?
Amazing question. The answer is weekly. For me, the answer is weekly. You have to know, and it's going to depend on the size of the project as well. But if you're doing remodeling projects that last anywhere longer than, say, 4 to 6 weeks, and even on a 4 to 6 week project, like part of this is just change management, right? Kyle, you and I know this very well as consultants, right? We know what this is all about. It's about instituting a proper behavioral system for ourselves. And basically, and that's the unpolitical or unpublic version I would use. But the public version I would say is about, the playbook, right? It's the idea of this is our standard operating procedure for X. So on a weekly basis, you should be reviewing all of your projects. You need a cloud-based solution that can actually show you that information. QuickBooks Online with the projects tab does a 20% job of it. I'm really hammering on QuickBooks right now.
I know.
But it doesn't really do a great job, but it can show you very big picture, estimated actual, right? There's other solutions out there as well, but yeah, ultimately it's a weekly thing. Whose responsibility is it to review? It's a tough question. It depends on the size of the business and who's managing the project. What I would love to see, and what we did, is we would always train our project managers to have a bit of a financial lens. The way I used to kind of explain it to them is that imagine you're running a company of one. This project is really your own business kind of thing, and you're running this one project. So, and that was the way I could get them to get buy-in and have, without having actual skin in the game, have skin in the game. So it's going to depend. It's either going to be the PM, it might be your GM, it might be your OM, general manager, operations manager, it might be your president, it might be your financial person. And it's going to depend on the size of the business for sure.
Yep. Good. Awesome. So we got 2 minutes left, and I like to usually kind of stop this right on the dime. Nobody's mentioned my shirt today. My wife kind of made fun of me on the way out, and she's like, "You're gonna wear that?" And I'm like, it's been hanging in my closet for months. I've never worn it.
I love it. I didn't even wear. You can't see because you're shaming me with the lights right now.
I do have nice lights.
Yeah, you're looking a lot better than I am. You even balance with the rule of thirds there with your photo on the left-hand side. I love it, Kyle.
Okay. Stop thinking that I actually strategically did that. It's just, if anything's good, it's like pretty accidental.
It was strategic.
Okay.
But yeah, I even didn't wear the black shirt today. Kyle and I both have these Banana Republic Peak Polo shirts as our uniform, and we regularly will show up to something wearing the same shirt. So I actually wore the blue one today because I thought Kyle would wear the dark one, but then he showed me up with this amazing color combo and everything. So
3 off. It's the thing about doing the remodeler show every day is the exhaustion of like, oh, I wore that yesterday. People might know. I mean, it's a lot. So anyways, as I was saying before I seek to comment on my shirt, is we're wrapping up. I want you to tell people about an estimating class, the course that you have coming up, and where they can find that. And then I want you to wrap up by saying, all right, this is my one big takeaway that I would like you guys to hear from the session, and I will do the same thing.
Amazing. So the class is, I call it an estimating masterclass. So for those that don't know me, I spent 21 years in the residential, mainly the residential, up here in Canada, we say renovations, as opposed to remodeling. So I spent 21 years in that business. I've estimated well over 1,000 projects in my time. So I put together an estimating masterclass, which is, the master part of it is, I don't want to toot my own horn and say I'm amazing at this or anything like that, but I've been around the block. The master part is really mastermind. So the idea of getting into, this little community over Zoom, getting these little breakout groups and sort of helping to elevate and support each other. It's a 6-week class, starts next Tuesday, so a week today. You can learn more at constructionconsulting.co. There's a call to action button in the upper right-hand corner or at the bottom of your screen on mobile. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Constructionconsulting.co.
CO, that's right.
Yep.
Everyone, yeah, don't get confused by the .com nature of the world. It's a .co. It's a .co.
Cool.
Big takeaway.
Big takeaway. Go ahead.
Big takeaway is really, and this is the big takeaway for the estimating masterclass people, is that you are not trying to solve a numbers problem when you're estimating. You are trying to solve a scope of work problem.
Love it. And my takeaway is kind of going back to that confidence part. Oh, there we go. Is it working again?
Yeah, I couldn't tell if you were massaging a baby's head there or what you were doing, but.
Are you hearing me though?
Yeah, I got you. You can't hear me probably.
No, yeah. I'm hearing you now. I got it going through here.
Right,
man, we almost made it. For some reason, when I have a guest using StreamYard, I've been having audio. I mentioned that. Here we are in the final second, but that's okay. Is that tie in between how the way we approach estimating is also tied in with the sales process.
Yeah.
Realize that if you don't charge for estimating and project development, you cannot get into the detailed level that you need to be. You can't do it for everybody. You need to have a little bit of a gate for them to have to walk through, which usually means charging for it.
Correct.
And that allows you to work on fewer projects, but more ideal projects. Your closing percentage goes up and it allows you to dig into the details more. So keep thinking about that, keep working on that, figure out what the next right thing to do related to it is.
Love it.
Cool, man. That was fun. Thank you for joining the Remodeler Show. We will do it again tomorrow. And Bryan, you will be back whether you like it or not.
Awesome.
Thanks, man.
for having me.
Appreciate it.